recent representative to Uganda, Ms. Nyamuhizi Wetland. Welcome. Now it is my honor and then invite our chief guest to give his opening remarks and also officially open our Water and Environment Week. Honorable Minister, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, PS. Your Lordship, the Chief Justice, represented by the Deputy Chief Justice, Your Grace, the Archbishop of Kampala Diocese, the Executive Secretary of Uganda Joint Christian Council, and the Orthodox Bishop-elect of Juba and South Sudan, the United Nations Resident Coordinator, the PS Minister of Water and Environment, representatives of the various development partners, representatives of private sector and civil society organizations, representatives of other stakeholders, government officials in your respective capacities, ministry staff, all Ugandans watching and listening to this event, the media, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to take this opportunity to welcome you all to the 7th Water and Environment Week 2024. In a special way, I wish to welcome our guest of honor, His Lordship the Chief Justice, represented by the Deputy Chief Justice, for honoring our invitation to officiate at the opening of this 7th Uganda Water and Environment Week. Your coming to this event is a vivid demonstration of the importance that you, the members of the judiciary, and the government as a whole attach to matters of water, environment, and the 10th edition of the Uganda Water and Environment Week. It was first held in 2018 and has been commemorated annually in the Uganda Water and Environment Weeks that have enabled us to improve our organization of the event over time. We shall continue to address any shortcomings during the commemoration of these week-long events, since the Water and Environment Week is an annual event. I wish to take this opportunity to thank the various dignitaries, organizations, agencies, partners, and stakeholders who have worked tirelessly with my ministry to ensure that this event takes place this year. Your contributions are all very much valued and appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, as you have already been told, this year's Water and Environment Week theme is Rethinking Collective Action and Innovative Solutions to Water, Environment, and the Climate Change Crisis in Uganda. This is being discussed under 4 sub-themes, as has already been mentioned. The celebrations of UWEWK 2024 under the theme and the sub-themes seek to achieve the overall goal of enabling all of us, participants, to rethink existing approaches and solutions to addressing water, environment, and the climate change challenges in Uganda, while building on outcomes and recommendations of the various global, regional, and national water, environment, and climate change-related events. Our guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, the Uganda Water and Environment Week is linked to Uganda's National Development Strategy and the National Development Plan 3, achievement of middle income status through the Vision 2040 and the SDGs. Dear participants, as we discuss the various sub-themes and undertake the various activities of the Water and Environment Week, I wish to remind you that water and environmental resources are connectors and catalysts, vital resources for sustaining life, promoting development, and maintaining the environment. I hope that all of us are aware that water is a key input in most of our socio-economic development processes, and there are no activities that can be undertaken where water is not involved, either as a primary input or a secondary input or a home for life. Ladies and gentlemen, access to clean and safe water and improved sanitation facilities and practices are prerequisites. Even baptism, climate regulation, and environmental conservation, among others. As they say, water is life. Water and environment, therefore, significantly contribute to the national socio-economic development, although in most cases, they are taken for granted because of being taken as public goods. Therefore, as Uganda seeks to industrialize and meet her national development goals in all the degradation of the wetlands to the current wetland coverage of 13.9%. There has also been a registered substantial progress in restoration of forest cover to the current 13.4%. My ministry has also implemented medium-scale water supply systems through our regional deconcentrated structures in all the districts and have facilitated water services, operations, and rehabilitation in large towns under the National Water Sewerage Corporation in 277 towns. Currently, access to safe water in rural areas stands at 67%, while that in urban areas is 73%, while access to basic sanitation in the rural areas is 80% and 90% in urban areas. My ministry is also promoting harvesting through construction of dams and valley tanks in the various parts of the country, as well as mitigating impacts of climate change on agriculture through establishment of irrigation schemes. Furthermore, my ministry has continued to promote catchment management planning and implementation, which is key to the integrated management of water and related resources. Currently, catchment management plans have been developed for 22 catchments out of 32 in the country. The plans facilitate coordinated planning and implementation, reversal of degradation of ecosystems, increase ecosystem resilience and productivity, and improve community livelihoods and socio-economic development. Guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen, climate change remains a major challenge due to the adverse effects caused by extreme weather patterns, especially floods, landslides, and drought, affecting different parts of the country. The poor management of natural resources, including wetlands, forests, land, water, and environment, have contributed to climate change, with serious implications on health of the population and on agricultural production and productivity. The government, through my ministry, has put in place frameworks for mitigation and adaptation to climate change. Currently, the ministry is developing regulations to operationalize the Climate Change Act 2021, and the country's commitments are clearly defined in the national determined contributions. In addition, the ministry is finalizing the Climate Change Vulnerability Index to facilitate the monitoring of the effects of climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, environmental degradation in Uganda is very rampant and requires strong enforcement of the environmental laws and regulations. I would like to appeal to you, guests of honor, to expedite the establishment of the Environment Court so that environmental crimes are quickly handled and disposed of. My ministry, working closely with NEMA, is ready to provide any required support, including capacity building, to ensure that the court is operational as soon as possible. To you stakeholders, the events of the Water and Environment Week provide a unique opportunity to all of you to contribute to new ideas, exchange knowledge, experiences, and the practices that are key in moving the water, environment, and the climate change agenda forward. I wish therefore to call upon you all to actively participate in the various activities and benefit from the wealth of knowledge and experience present here. I want to assure you all of my ministry's commitment to move forward the deliberations and the recommendations of the Water and Environment Week so that they can positively impact and revolutionize the water and environment sector, as well as accelerating Uganda's achievement of SDGs and the National Development Plan 3 targets. I thank you for honoring our invitation and coming to attend this function. It is now my singular honor and privilege to invite our guest of honor, His Lordship, the Deputy Chief Justice, representing the Chief Justice of Uganda, to deliver his speech and formally open the 7th Uganda and Environment Week 2024 for God and my country, and I thank you very much for listening to me.
Honorable Minister of Water and Environment, Honorable Minister of State, representative of the Kampala Archdiocese, Archbishop of Kampala Archdiocese, the United Nations Resident Coordinator, the UNDP representative, the representatives of development partners here, representatives of the private sector and civil society organizations, representatives of other stakeholders, government officials, all Ugandans watching and listening to this event, the media, ladies and gentlemen. I congratulate the Ministry of Water and Environment and its partners for organizing the 7th Uganda Water and Environment Week. This is an opportunity for all stakeholders to come together and discuss issues affecting water and the environment. It is pleasant to note that you have continuously held these annual celebrations since inception in the year 2018 as a way of providing a forum for dialogue among stakeholders in the sustainable management of natural resources. Environmental issues affect all of us as we live in this country. The people who put together our constitution in 1995 knew this fact quite well, and it is well stated in our constitution. Objective number 21 of the national objectives and directive principles of state policy of our constitution states, and I quote, "The state shall take all practical measures to promote a good water management system at all levels." It is in compliance with this constitutional obligation that the state makes all effort to provide a good water management system at every level. Note that the duty of the state is that this should extend to every level. We should endeavor to work towards the achievement of this goal because we all agree that we need good water and everywhere. Our constitution is even more elaborate in respect of protection of the environment. I'll quote the constitution and please listen. This is a day for us to reflect and reconsider. We should think about whether we are all playing our proper constitutional roles in the area of environmental protection. It is extremely important that we listen to the command to us from the Constitution of Uganda. Objective number 27 provides as follows, and I quote, 1, the state shall promote sustainable development and public awareness of the need to manage land, air, and water resources in a balanced and sustainable manner for the present and future generations. 2, the utilization of the natural resources of Uganda shall be managed in such a way as to meet the development and environmental needs of present and future generations of Ugandans. And in particular, the state shall take all possible measures to prevent or minimize the damage and destruction of land, air, and water resources resulting from pollution or other causes. 3, the state shall promote and implement energy policies that will ensure that people's basic needs and those of environmental preservation are met. And 4, the state, including local governments, shall A, create and develop parks, reserves, and recreation areas, and ensure that the conservation of natural resources is done. B, promote the rational use of natural resources so as to safeguard and protect the biodiversity of Uganda. Chapter 247 of our Constitution empowers our Parliament to make laws for the protection and preservation of environment, and Parliament has, in compliance with this provision of the Constitution, made various laws to that effect. Let's keep in mind that Uganda is a signatory to a number of regional, continental, and international instruments and treaties governing sustainable use of the environment and natural resources. Under these instruments and treaties, we are obliged to protect and promote sustainable water and environmental policies as our international obligation. We have committed ourselves in this regard to protect the environment and natural resources, and we are obliged to comply. The theme of this 7th Uganda National Water and Environment Week is Rethinking Collective Action and Innovative Solutions to Water, Environment, and Climate Change Crisis in Uganda. This theme invites, we need to have a candid discussion on how best we can use the environment and natural resources sustainably for the benefit. We need to build from the lessons learned from this week's activities to see how best we can manage the environment and curb the challenges caused by climate change. I request the participants at this for socio-economic transformation of Uganda. Natural resources such as forests, wetlands, water bodies, flora and fauna constitute a big part of our environment. They can be used as sources of income and provide employment to many Ugandans. They are means of wealth creation. They avail several opportunities to the population in the form of agriculture, tourism, fish farming, and harvesting, timber, among others. Development, under Chapter 9, climate change is covered, natural resources, environment, water management are all covered. This calls upon each of us to make a contribution in mitigating climate change through sustainable management. Environmental protection is therefore critical to human health. Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda is bound by the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, that are generated by the United Nations, to which Uganda is a party. Under SD 6, the SD 6 requires all member states to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. SD 13 enjoins member states to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. SD 14 enjoins member states to conserve sustainability, use the oceans, seas, and maintain marine resources for sustainable development. The above SDs should be borne in mind throughout this week and guide our current and future actions in regard to the way the environment is managed. We should also keep it in mind that Article 39 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda provides, and I quote, "Every Ugandan has a right to a clean and healthy environment," quote. All persons have a right to access clean air, water, and uncontaminated food. Proper management of water resources and environment are key to the realization and enjoyment of a right to a clean and healthy environment. The natural forests and wetland cover is currently under threat from indiscriminate destruction by encroachers. Increase in population has led to the need for agricultural land, industrial parks, and settlement space. Wetlands within and around Kampala, such as Chinawataka, Rubiji, and Luzira wetlands, are examples of wetland degradation. The wetlands in the countryside have equally not been spared, especially by agricultural activities. There is a need to scale up restoration of degraded ecosystems and also strengthen enforcement of water and environmental laws and regulations at all levels. I wish to assure you of the support of the judiciary in ensuring that enforcement of these laws and regulations is achieved. I want to assure the Minister that discussions are ongoing about the establishment of the Environmental Court. It is clear that climate change inaction jeopardizes development. It affects the timely achievement of national goals. It underscores the importance of mainstreaming climate change in all sectors of government. I wish to call upon everybody to join in the efforts of addressing climate change. When we talk about climate change, we are talking about our actual lives and livelihood. When it is hot like it is this morning, we all feel it ourselves. In our neighborhood, South Sudan, schools are closed. That's not far from us. Ladies and gentlemen, water and environment resources are at the core of sustainable development. They are critical for socio-economic transformation and human survival. These resources are key in the implementation of the parish development model, which has been adopted to enhance livelihoods of the citizens of this country through improved household incomes. I wish to recognize and appreciate the various organizations and development partners that have continued to support the Ministry of Water and Environment to achieve water and environment services to the people of Uganda. I wish to thank you for this support and request you to continue working with us so that this critical sector of government is effectively managed. It is then that we will perform its key functions for the benefit of all the people residing in this country. I wish you all fruitful deliberations during this week and a successful commemoration of the 3 annual sector international days. That is, the International Forest Day of March 21st, the World Water Day of March 22nd, and the World Meteorological Day of March 23rd. It is now my singular honor to declare the 7th Uganda Water and Environment Week 2024 officially opened for God and my country.
Please, a round of applause to our chief guest. And thank you, really, the judiciary for the support you're rendering. And we look forward to the establishment of the environmental court so that the environment gets justice that is badly needed. Thank you so much, and thank you really for sparing time. We are going to have 2 things, and then after those 2, we'll go to open the exhibition briefly. We're going to have, first and foremost, a recognition, very few, and it will be done by my minister, together with the Minister for Safety and Environment, who has joined us. Honorable Beatrice, you're welcome. And then after that, we'll have a group photo. So the first recognition, they want to say thank you to our guests of honor, judiciary. May I request the Honorable Minister can come forward. To say thank you to our chief guest by giving this recognition for this wonderful speech you have given us. Guests of honor, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Minister, you can stay there. Just a moment. I would like to request the representative of His Grace to come and receive the appreciation from the Minister and give it to His Grace. And also give him my very personal regards. He's the one who wedded me. This will go to the UN system represented by the UN resident coordinator, because they have really been key supporters for us as a ministry. So, Your Excellency, Susan, please. Embrace the issue around conservation, environment, and climate change. And these are the religious community represented by the Executive Secretary of the Council, Joint Christian Council. They have really come out very strongly. And thank you for supporting this cause, and thank you for the advocacy, and thank you, Juba and South Sudan. We wish you the best. Thank you. Now, I would request the minister, together with our chief guests and the people at the front table, come and we take a group. Agencies under the ministry, come and we take a group photo.
So the keynote speakers to join in the photo. You can tell them to smile. Oh, yes. So that child is also a panelist that is going to speak to us shortly. So she's there in her own right as a panelist, 10 years old. So thank you very much. I would like to request, before we move, we have to have the anthems. Yeah, so our guest of honor and the rest of the team, let's have the anthem. So PS, maybe you can read us.
So we can have the anthem in reverse order, start with the one of East Africa and then the one for Uganda. Please, we can all stand.
NBS happening now. NBS happening now. Woman MP race debate. Moderated by Mildred Tuhaise. Live in Lira. The debate will air live on NBS TV. Available for streaming via the Afro mobile app at 10 p.m. on Monday, March 18th, 2024. Don't miss as Janet Adong Elao of the NRM, Dr. Austin Rosemary Arok of FTC, Sarah Oguti Nyayankori of UPC, Harriet Ageno of NUB, and independent candidates Rebecca Arayo, Anne Grace Lalam, and Esther Okulo Obot battle it out to win over voters. The Dokolo Woman MP Debate, this Monday, March 18th, 2024, live at 10 p.m. on NBS TV and available to stream via Afro Mobile.
My bossy, can I borrow fuero? Biggie Manny, can I borrow renty? Manager, give me some caloni. Okay, what about 5K?
When you need a loan, you've got MTN Momo. Wesotinge. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Oh, Sarah, these two are creeping into your personal space. Why don't we send them packing? Or maybe not.
Bringing together Ugandans for a festival like no other. Picture this: Madokse Matimba, Africo Band, Azawi, and a lot more performing live on the 30th of March at the Lugogo Cricket Oval. But that's not all, because it's more than just music. Every ticket sold contributes to the Lottery Literacy Project, transforming lives one note at a time. Come, let's celebrate the Easter weekend as we make a difference. Get your ticket at only 50K General, 100K VIP, and 3.5 million for a table of 8. Tickets are available at mook.com. Gets open at 11 a.m. till late.
NBS happening now.
Like a withered flower, the land wilts away, the soil dried up, unable to hold at bay, and the cruel encroachment of the blazing heat that scorches. The crops wither and the landslides tall, the worst green forest now a laughing stock. The world, our mother, now a shadow of its past. It's a world breaking, disintegrating so fast. Will the future generation really forgive us for this mess? Like a symphony that lost its tune. The world looks different like a dissolute moon. Future generation, forgive us for this mess. Like a symphony that lost its key. The birds stop chirping, the animals flee, forced to survive in a hostile condition. A vivid reminder of our poor decisions. Will the future generation really forgive us for this mess? Oh, in Kasese, where floods reign supreme, washing away homes, hopes, and dreams. But in the struggle for survival, they find strength in perseverance at length. People flock from villages and towns in search for peace, but the truth remains it's an elusive tease. How do we expect peace in a world where agony and trauma are forever born? A world where peace is a myth and agony is a fact. Will the future generation forgive us? Flowing and soaking as its quality is disintegrating, but human beings are laughing. Will the future generation forgive us for this mess? Oh, when I look in the east, I see how our lakes have become sewage pools. When I look in the west, I see how look in the north, I see how our swamps have been drained for settlement. When I look in the south, I see how the land has been stripped bare due to deforestation. Will the future generation forgive us for this maize. But look, there is some hope that must not be forsaken. A solution must be found before all is taken. We must act now to create a change. For our children, it's time to arrange. Will the future generation forgive us for this maize? We can conserve and plant some more. Switch to renewable energy, count the score. We can live in harmony with each other for the sake of the earth, our world, and our mother. But will the future generation forgive us for this maize? Let me advise you, my fellow Ugandans. Let me advise you to be wise. Like I would leave you with a question. What shall you tell your children about the roles you played in regard to environmental conservation? Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Abdul Latif, that was an incredible presentation. Another round of applause. At every stand is asking us a question. Will the future generations forgive us for this mess? In my lifetime, I've seen a river disappear. I've seen a forest cover dwindle. In my lifetime, I've seen a river disappear. Where I come from in the city of Fort Porter, would sit in the compound of our father about 25 or 30 years ago and see snow on Mount Rwenzori. He'd always tell us, come out and see the snow. We would never take it so serious. We would ask, why is this man telling us about the snow? But now I know why he was so passionate about this. And now we have lost it. We can't see it. Can you imagine snow just at the middle of the equator? Now it's gone. For those who come from Barara City, there's a river called River Rwizi, the border with Tanzania, on River Kagera. Can you imagine? Because of destroyed the environment where water was coming from in the areas of Rwizi and Bushenyi. May I invite again Dr. Kalist to come and introduce the keynote speakers. Please, let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, for this year, as we discuss and reflect on the theme, Rethinking Corrective Action and Innovative Solutions to Water, Environment, and Climate Change Crisis in Uganda, we decided to have two keynote speakers, very, very experienced and well-known professionals in this area. We have Dr. Mark Smith, all the way from Sri Lanka. He's the Director General of the International Water Management Institute. He was formerly the Deputy Director General of the same organization in charge of research for development and brings in experience in water resources, agriculture, climate and sustainability. He was the Director of the Global Water Program at the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, from 2008 to 2018, where he led innovation, multi-regional programs in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, addressing river basin management, transboundary cooperation, and water governance, climate change adaptation, and nature-based solutions. He has a PhD in ecology and resource management from the University of Edinburgh and a master's in climatology from the University of Guelph. He holds a PhD from Queen's University, Belfast, and a postgraduate degree. He attended Harvard Business School Executive Leadership Development Program and has been an affiliated Fulbright Research Scholar at the University of California, Berkeley, and Chevening Fellow at the University of Brantford. I would like you to join me to welcome Dr. Mark Smith as our first keynote speaker. Dr. Mark.
Thank you so much, Kalist, for that warm introduction. Some of that biography was me, and some of it was true. Thank you very much. I would like to begin by adding, of course, my acknowledgement to all of the protocols observed. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I want also to express my deep thanks and appreciation to the Honourable Minister, to the Permanent Secretary, to the organisers, the Ministry of Water and Environment, the Water Resources Institute, and all of the convening partners for the fantastic opportunity you have afforded to me to speak today and to, thank you, to contribute to what I am sure will be a very successful Uganda Water and Environment Week. My congratulations also to all of those who have contributed to the organizing of this week. This has been a heavy lift, I'm very sure, having done little bits of that myself, and what I see is a fantastic program that you've laid on for all of us. I also want to extend my personal thanks to Dr. Kalis Tindamugaya for reaching out to invite me to this event, and also for many years now for your warm collaborative spirit and the wisdom that you so consistently bring to these issues. I want to acknowledge also, and with real gratitude, with my genuine gratitude, the new partnership that IMI, my institute, has with the Ministry of Water and Environment and the Water Resources Institute. We were very honored recently to sign an MOU with the ambition of building our cooperation on water management for agriculture, for health, for climate resilience, for ecosystems, and also in governance and transboundary cooperation. So on behalf of IMI's regional representative in East Africa, Dr. Abdul Karim Said, who's based in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and my colleagues based here in Kampala, we're looking forward very much to bringing this partnership to life with you through collaboration that I'm sure is going to go from strength to strength. Our job as an international research for development institute is to help. It's to help in the countries where we work. And so I extend that commitment to partnership to all of you here and look forward to working with you as we go forward. I want to use this opportunity, and I hope this is a welcome contribution indeed to the theme of this Uganda Water and Environment Week, use this opportunity to help build the dialogue that will take place this week, to do a few things. And these are from the lens, and this is what was asked of me, and I think Dr. Mugisha will give a complimentary keynote presentation in just a few minutes that will have much more of a Uganda focus. My focus, my lens, the lens I bring to this is from the international level. And I want to start, I will frame the severity and the urgency of challenges for water security as they exist now, and particularly as we look into the future. I want to stress the importance of building ways forward that are based on collective action and the role of knowledge, research, and innovation within that, and outline some critical areas of research for development and their applications to the solutions, and indeed the way those need to connect to collective action. So on the screen you see 5 what I term wicked problems for water management. Wicked problems are complex. To make progress on them, to find resolution to them, we need transformation of systems. We need systems change that brings together all sorts of different dimensions, indeed, as we've been hearing much about already this morning. They are characterized also by never having enough information, never having all of the data that you need to have a complete picture of where the solutions to these kinds of problems exist. They are full of unknowns, and they are themselves, as we work on them, undergoing dynamic change. The first one that I want to touch on is hunger. Already some 1.2 billion people live in regions where agriculture faces water scarcity. We know that water is inextricably linked to food security, and indeed that a food secure future is only possible in a water secure world. So how will we address that? How will we find resolution to that challenge, to that wicked problem as we go forwards? The second one I wish to highlight is climate. And I frame that on the screen as climate beyond 2 degrees of warming, which is where we don't want to get, right? We know that with every increment of warming, water insecurity increases for the most vulnerable people because of droughts, floods, extreme events, shifting monsoons and rising sea levels and so on. But it's actually worse than that. It's worse than that. The most recent report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, it had in it, in its water chapter, it had in it a little line. It said that has profound implications. It said that the effectiveness of adaptation to these impacts is expected to fall sharply beyond 2 degrees of warming. The implication is that the time we have available to build water security is finite. And this is unprecedented. In human history, we've always looked backwards in time and said, this is how we understand water resources and its risks, and now we no longer can. And the tools that we have to adapt to this uncertain future become less and less useful as we look into that future. So future water security depends on climate change adaptation, yes, but also on mitigation. It's tied very tightly to that challenge of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The third wicked problem is poverty and exclusion. And we know that universal access to water and sanitation is still far out of reach, although we make progress. And that makes it more difficult to escape poverty, especially in marginalized communities and for women and girls. The fourth wicked problem is ecosystem breakdown. The FAO published a report some 2-3 years ago now, the state of land and water. And in it they said that ecosystems are at breaking point. They're at breaking point because of the pressures that we put on them. And that puts at risk the very capacity of the land and water systems in which we live, the very capacity of those systems to sustain us. Another wicked problem. And the final one is a bit more technical, but it's what we term deep uncertainty. And this relates to that point I just made, that climate change means that as we look back, that the past is no longer a guide to future water risks and future water management as it's always been, because the probabilities for water risks as we look into the future are unknown. And that, again, changes things very profoundly. So we have to reconfigure the way that we manage droughts and floods and water scarcity. We have to find new ways of planning and investing and managing water. We can't just do more of what we've tried to do in the past. We have to reconfigure things. So those are 5 wicked problems for water management. So what should we do? What should we do? How should we tackle? What should be our priorities as we take on those wicked problems? So at my institute, the International Water Management Institute, what we did at the end of 2022, which was just prior to the UN conference on water that took place in New York in March of 2023. So just prior to that, we started a dialogue. We started a dialogue and we asked people. We asked, what should we do? What should be our priorities for how we tackle these kinds of problems? What should be our priorities for transforming the future of water security? Here, by water security, I just want to stop for one brief moment. By water security, there's various definitions that, of course, we will see. The way we describe it at IMI is water security demands that we achieve and sustain the availability of an acceptable quantity and quality of water for health, livelihoods, ecosystems, and production, coupled with an acceptable level of water-related risks to people, environments, and economies. So that's the big picture of water security. So we ask people, what should be our priorities as we look into the future for achieving water security? As I said, we convened beginning at the end of 2022, a dialogue process that we called Transformative Futures for Water Security. The aim was to bring together those stakeholders to design a set of what we called high ambition missions for science-based action on water security, and then take those to that conference in New York as a call for ambition, as a call for high ambition. And for stakeholders then to join forces on collective action missions for transforming future water security. The process we ran, it was built from the bottom up, from some feeder events, and then a set of 8 regional online dialogues, including in this region. The process was co-led with youth. We had youth co-guardianship of the process, recognizing the stake that young people today have in the future of water and climate and environment. Indeed, as the the poet who spoke so eloquently just a few moments ago, the message he was delivering to us. We brought together in this process 8 stakeholder groups, from policymakers through local government, water users across different sectors, private sector, NGOs, youth, funders and investors, and knowledge generators. As I said, we had 8 regional online dialogues that then concluded with a final conference, a final in-person conference just in South Africa, just before that UN conference. So in all, across all of this process, we had more than 60 convening partners. We had contributions to the process from more than 1,000 people coming from more than 400 organizations, including contributions and participation here from Uganda, of course. So the participants in this process, they generated missions, as I said, a set of 8 missions. These are high ambition missions for science-based action on water security. By missions, we mean big, difficult goals for those helping us work with those wicked problems, big, difficult goals for transforming water security and to create impact at scale, in which we need to combine, yes, applied research, but also policy change, private sector action, investment. The collective action is at the core of the idea of working with missions. These 8 missions are stakeholder-driven priorities for research, policy, action, and investment. The 8 missions are systemic. They're systemic and they're reinforcing when we combine them, when we bring them together. Now, the first 4 of these missions are on the screen now. And these are oriented towards systemic outcomes. So how do we, what are the key systemic outcomes that we need to be oriented towards? So these first 4, it starts with number 1. I suspect you can't read it, but the first is build farmers' resilience to climate change and water risks by using climate-smart interventions to raise water productivity and transform agriculture. Remember, these came from all of those stakeholders that were taking part in that process. The second mission is deliver sustainable stakeholder-driven WASH services with accountable institutions, adequate information and policies to achieve universal access. The third mission of these systemic missions is increase water availability through circular management of wastewater, new technologies for non-conventional water, and cutting non-revenue losses. The fourth mission, make water infrastructure future-ready, using ecological as well as built infrastructure that is complementary, equitable, and resilient. So those are the first 4 of the 8 missions. The second 4 are what we termed enabling missions. So these are enabling levers for systemic change. The 5th mission then is to overcome data and information barriers by developing and operationalizing digital solutions for basins and aquifers worldwide. The 6th mission is make water decisions fit for the future. Here, by integrating the full range of values of water, and we heard this morning about some of those diversity of values of water that need to be incorporated into decision-making around water. So integrating the full range of the values of water and the objectives of multiple sectors and stakeholders and the trade-offs between them. 7th mission, deliver good water governance and transboundary cooperation that is inclusive, participatory, equitable, accountable, responsive, and smart. And the final mission, the 8th mission, adapt to future water regimes and risks with enhanced climate information, preparedness, management, innovation, and capacity development. So these transformative Futures for Water Security missions, they provide a stakeholder-led, demand-driven framework for collective action. A common framework around which diverse stakeholders can align their priorities and their action. And the missions were published just ahead of that New York conference in the journal Nature Water, and we were very honored to have Dr. Callis join us in publishing that paper. So we work with the mission framework, we combine the systemic and the enabling missions, and then you see around them in the orange circle are a set of components that are common to all missions. Here's where we see gender equality, youth leadership, research partnerships, the need for private sector engagement, and so on. As I said, these missions, they provide a shared framework for collective action. A shared framework for collective action on this wicked problem of future water security. So just what do we mean, before I get on to what's on that slide, what do we mean by collective action? So our contention is in this process that we will make more and faster progress in resolving those complex water problems if stakeholders align their efforts and get behind shared goals for change, so that the policymakers in government, the local government, the funders and the investors in the private sector, civil society, research institutions, that we work jointly on policies and investments and implementing actions, making change on the ground. And if we can align and break down the fragmentation that we face, then we will accelerate progress where speed is important. Speed is part of the challenge that we face today. So these missions provide a shared framework of goals, and each of those stakeholder groups, each of those involved in collective action can then ask, what are we doing now to contribute to the missions? How can we be more successful if we align to what others are doing? What is missing? How can we work together to close that science policy to action gap? So mission-driven collective action helps us break down silos and, as I said, reduce the fragmentation that plagues water action. With mission-driven collective action, we can jointly raise our ambition. We can jointly raise our ambition so that we use our collective muscle to be truly bold. Those wicked problems, they require us to be truly bold, and we can do that together, not apart. So I want to spend just a few slides now saying how we're responding to that challenge. What do we in Research for Development, what do we in my institute, what do we contribute, what do we bring to mission-driven collective action? And part of the context here is that I think too often research institutes and the culture of research means that you stand outside these issues. You stand outside these issues and you work on understanding them and informing people so that they can understand better. And I think with these kinds of wicked systemic problems, research and institutes like mine, we have to stand inside the problems. We have to stand inside the system and work through collective action partnerships alongside others on systems change. So we are a Research for Development organization. That means we have a clear line of sight through to impact. Yes, we do applied research, but we need impact, and that requires us to work on partnerships, and this collective action approach, I think, means that we will strengthen our partnership. So I want to put a spotlight on 3 of the missions. The first of those, as you see here, is building farmers' resilience. As I've said, climate change is having profound implications for water and for water risks, and these are felt keenly by farmers. We know this, we all know this. It's felt keenly by farmers. As water risks are changing, there is more uncertainty about water risks. They are facing this problem of deep uncertainty. The past is no longer a guide to the future. In East Africa, food insecurity impacts some 40 million people across the region, and in 2023, drought and water insecurity was linked to the displacement of 13 million people. According to the IPCC, additional warming will increase the length of dry spells in this region. Heavy rainfall events are expected to increase, and in the arid and semi-arid zones, droughts may intensify. In Uganda, as I've understood it, given these pressures on food and water security, the National Irrigation Policy has set ambitious targets for the expansion of irrigation. So our focus at IMI, what we bring to collective action, one of those things is research and innovation to raise water productivity, to produce more with less water. Then there's more to go around. Then there's less need to invest in irrigation. So raise water productivity. The challenge is that this is actually more complex than it may appear, and it requires aligning actions and technologies and innovations across scales, really from the level of genes and seeds and crops and the crops that you choose, through to the way that you manage them in farmers' fields, through to the way that water is allocated between different uses in a basin, the way that you manage water storage at the basin level, the way that you govern the way water is managed between different sectors. So this challenge of increasing water productivity requires us to weave together all of those different elements. And in this region, for example, applying an innovation termed the Irrigation Investment Quality Management Systems, developed by IMI and our partners for application in Uganda and Kenya and Ethiopia, but also, given that uncertain future, using scenario assessment tools that are now increasingly available for looking at how do we, in the Nile Basin, how do we achieve true water savings. Alongside our focus on water productivity, we've been making progress also in supporting the development and scaling of farmer-led irrigation. So working through collective action to test how to increase access to irrigation technologies, access to capacities, access to financing by farming. So test how to make that work better by working with the private sector on value chain development and financing partnerships, and with the public sector on capacities and policies, and with multi-sector platforms to catalyze partnerships. But we recognize as well that to close the irrigation gap in Africa, in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, it's estimated that farmers could irrigate 30 million hectares profitably with motor pumps, like you see on the screen, to benefit 185 million farm households with $22 billion in net revenue. But to work at that kind of scale, clearly we need much higher ambition. We need to overcome the fragmentation of our efforts, mobilize finance, and ensure that sustainable and resilient investments are implemented through collective action. We also have to ensure that the development of farmer-led irrigation is sustainable and that it takes place within the sustainable limits of water resources and also the other demands that there are on water resources, including from ecosystems. The second mission I wanted to highlight is this Make Water Infrastructure Future Ready. There's a lot of focus in the research and innovation space on the water, energy, food, and ecosystems nexus. So for example, with this kind of approach, we can bring the data and analysis to help policymakers and investors weigh up the trade-offs between agriculture, energy security, and water resources. And this can help to reveal opportunities to harness renewable energy and irrigation, to increase water use efficiency, while also reducing the carbon footprint of agriculture. This kind of nexus approach is also key to breaking down the sector silos. And that's key for optimizing productivity across sectors and achieving real gains, real demonstrable gains in sustainability, both locally and then through to the basin level. It's also a means of opening what are really cutting-edge pathways now to delivering what we term multi-sector infrastructure portfolios. So enabling the design of low-carbon development pathways, which we've heard from the United Nations this morning is so important. Low-carbon development pathways integrating energy, food, and water security. And then integrating into those nature-based solutions, including wetland management and conservation. The map and the image that you see on the right-hand side of the screen comes from, as I said, this is really cutting-edge research that we've been involved in across with a range of different partners. These kinds of large-scale integrated systems are increasingly possible at the design level. We increasingly have the capability to say, how do we pull together all of these different objectives? Yes, there are data gaps, but those data gaps are getting less as well because we have remote sensing and other tools to help us with that. So the example that in the map is from Ghana, which was an analysis that showed we can combine projections for how we invest in the electricity grid alongside hydropower, alongside irrigation, alongside ecosystems in a combined package. But to bring that to life, to take that out of the realm of research, clearly that's where we need collective action. It's through collective action that we can turn that kind of capability into real investment and real action. So we need to come together to do that. The third of the missions that I wanted to highlight relates to water risks. As we've talked about, the importance of climate change here, the importance of how do we handle deep uncertainty and what that means in terms of having new systems, new tools, ways of reconfiguring the way we manage for water risks. So here at IMI, we bring research and innovation on drought and flood monitoring and early warning. We do that across Asia, across Africa as well. The example that you see on the screen is current work that we do in Zambia alongside a whole range of partners there. Second is applications of those kinds of the satellite data that's behind that kind of monitoring, satellite data to low cost, very local scale, index-based crop insurance, so bringing the benefits of that kind of technology right down to assisting small-scale farmers with their resilience. And then finally, there isn't anything on the screen about this, but I wanted to mention it's really at the latest work that we're doing is to develop and roll out what we call digital platforms that link early warning to cross-sector, multi-ministry anticipatory action for disaster risk management. So again, tools to put these kinds of data right into the hands of people that need them to make decisions, in this case, ahead of when disaster strikes so that communities can be more resilient. Here in Uganda, we're applying these kinds of tools in support of the USAID Feed the Future Water and Food Systems project in Karamoja to build the water data and information base that's needed for steering investments under that program to overcome water and food insecurity. Okay, none of those innovations work by themselves. They won't scale without collective action. They won't scale without improvements to water governance and policies and institutions. They won't scale without lowering the barriers to equality for women and girls. They won't scale in this region in particular without effective transboundary cooperation. But just before I move on to some conclusions, they're also hindered, as I touched on, by a lack of data and information. So one final innovation to spotlight is from a program that we lead called DIWASA, Digital Innovation for a Water Secure Africa. It's led by my colleague, Dr. Abdul Karim Said from our office in our regional representative for Eastern Africa. And it's a platform that will soon be launched in partnership with a program called Digital Earth Africa. And it provides a means of accessing continent-wide water accounts for the whole of Africa. So what does that mean, and why is that new? Why is it different? So with water accounts, we know how much water do we have, where is it, how's it being used, how's it changing over time. So with this new platform, we'll be able to, for anywhere in Africa, zoom in to water accounts for on a 1 square kilometer grid. So look at the water accounts for a country, for a basin, for an irrigation scheme, for a watershed. And so what it means is that Uganda and other programs that are run here in other countries will have a really unprecedented resource for helping to fill the gaps, overcome the barriers created to good planning and investment that are created by lack of data. Okay, so just to draw a few conclusions then, at that UN conference in New York last year that I mentioned earlier, the Secretary General at the closing of the conference, he said the quote that you see on the screen: "All of humanity's hopes for the future depend in some way on charting a new science-based course to bring the water action agenda to life." The conference called for a whole set of priorities that you see listed on the screen there. So meeting the human right to water, policies that enable scaling and innovation, unlocking public and private finance, reducing water risks, overcoming inequalities, and so on. The Transformative Futures for Water Security Missions Framework provides a common framework for collective action across our policy, business, development, investment, and science communities to respond to those priorities that have been articulated by stakeholders around the world. With this common framework, we can align and work jointly on delivering solutions to those priorities, to those wicked problems that I outlined. So at IMI, we will shortly launch our new strategy for the next 7 years. It charts how we will contribute to collective action, how we will contribute to the stakeholder missions through our capabilities, how we will leverage, I haven't mentioned this, but how we will leverage capabilities across the CGIAR. CGIAR is a family of institutes like ours, how we will do that so that we can work indeed from genes to basins, as I mentioned. Our contributions are structured around outcomes for risk, inequalities, and managing water sustainably, as well as applying what we term transformational levers for water data, some of which you've seen here, some of those new tools, water governance, transformational levers related to gender, youth, and social inclusion, as well as to finance, scaling, and investment. So I invite everyone here this week and beyond to consider how to use the common mission framework to align our collective action, to rethink our collective action, indeed, as the theme of this week challenges us to do, for that bold transformation of future water security that we need around the world and here in Uganda. And from IMI's point of view, we look forward to carrying this agenda forward with you through partnership here in Uganda. Thank you.
Another big applause for Dr. Mark Smith. Thank you very much for the very, very brilliant presentation and also highlighting the key issues that we need to bear in mind. We move on with the next keynote speaker. This is our very own engineer, Dr. Mugisha Silva, who is the Managing Director, National Water and Sewage Corporation. He holds a PhD in Engineering and Economics from Makerere University, Uganda. His PhD research was carried out in collaboration with PRC of University of Florida, USA, focusing on areas of performance monitoring, incentive design, and productivity analysis. He was previously Chief Manager in charge of Institutional Development and External Services at National Water and Sewage Corporation. He has been with National Water since 1994 and has risen through the ranks of the corporation to become its head. He has worked on external consultancies in various organizations within Uganda, outside Uganda, and outside Africa. He has been a board member of the International Water Association since 2014 and later became the vice president of the same association. He was also the vice president of the Africa Water Association. He's the fellow of the International Water Association and Research School of Netherlands. I would like you to join me to welcome Dr. Silva Mugisha to present to us as the second keynote speaker.
Thank you very much, Dr. Calist, for those very kind words of introduction. Where is the presentation? You know, I told people that these IT things. So, as I wait for the presentation, I really want to thank Dr. Smith for the very wonderful presentation he has made. And also to tell you that he is not the only one. If you asked anybody from a university, he would have a different version of this rich information he can present to you. So when I was asked to make a keynote presentation, it was a bit unique because as you see the program, there's only one keynote speaker. In this one, they said we should be two. And I think the intention was for me to put footnotes to what Dr. Smith was trying to say. Now, my footnotes are going to be guided by things which you will not easily get. This one of Dr. Smith you can get. If you go to University of Florida and call a professor, he won't get is the mindset. What is the mindset that we need? What is the attitude to action? Dr. Smith talked about collective action. But for me, I think it has become collective speaking or talking. We talk, and there is little action. This is very good information to use to take action. So when shall we understand what action is and what talking is? If we continue to convince ourselves that talking means action, I think we shall continue with these problems in perpetuity. So I want to urge us here in this week of talking, actually, to start exploring ways of graduating this talking into action. And so I want to give you 10 issues as I saw them, because I've been with you around. And only note that we have the best people that can actually take action in this country. The best people. You come to the ministry here, best engineers, water engineers. You go to national water, best engineers, best people. But why are we still struggling with these problems when they seem even to get worse every day that passes? How do I move this? Okay. So just briefly, that is the situation as it is now in Uganda. I got some information from the UN just slightly before COVID, and I'm a little bit convinced that that is still the situation, because figures, they don't have the habit of moving very fast here. If you don't work on things, you don't expect that things will change very fast. Those are still the figures. About 79 of house whose target was 83 at that time. The variations in access to drinking water sources by residents, 91% of households in urban areas have access, and 75% of households have access in rural areas. Kampala is the highest, of course, being the capital city. 99% of the households have access. And Ankole, where I come from, has the lowest access to water. Only 3% of the households use flush toilets. 83% of the households use pit latrines. 7% use bushes. These ones still go to the bush. And 6.2% use improved pit latrines. There are also figures for access to hand washing and the issue of extreme weather events, which are still there. This heat you hear here is because of the issues we are talking about. I don't think it would be as hot as this if it was not because of climate change issues. Now, what are the issues as I see them? Where do you point this? What are the issues as we see them? I'm having a bit of... The first issue, everybody will tell you the reason why the water and sanitation situation is like that is because of money. There is no finance. And I think everybody now knows it. But what is the issue? The issue is that we only focus on traditional sources. When you don't have money, you want to look at the World Bank, at KFW, now we have AFD, we have Danida. Those are the sources we look at. We don't look at the way we are managing systems. If we are managing them properly, wouldn't we generate our own internal sources to complement these other traditional sources? There are climate funds that have now come. Can we think beyond these sources to those other sources? There is also market financing. Market financing, but of course that depends on the revenues you have as an institution. So that's one of the issues. Two, we focus on copy and paste. Even now, I know as Dr. Smith he made his presentation, some people are copying and pasting. And you know what copying and pasting means? Copying and pasting means you simply refuse to use your head, and you think that the other people who have used their head will help you. We copy and paste, even things that are not applicable in our environment. We want to copy and paste. I have seen, for example, people saying, this thing has worked in UK, let's use it here. But is the operating context of UK the same as ours? This thing has worked here. And when you ask somebody, if it has worked there, what are the outcomes? He says, no, that's not the issue. The issue is it has worked there, it should work here. Copy and paste. The other one, groupthink. Here, of course, we are group thinking now. This is groupthink. But we forget to know that we come from different countries with different challenges. Group thinking is okay, but as you think in a group, can you reflect on the challenges you are having at home? And even when you come at home here, do you think the challenges of Kampala are the same as Guru, are the same as Karamoja? Why do you think you can apply the same solutions across the board, nationally and internationally? Group thinking. Propensity to use technology solutions without regard to value for money. I tell you, the number of knockings I've had on my door for prepaid meters, for example. Somebody says, use prepaid meters. I say, you are from China? Yes. Are you using them? He says, no, but you can use them here. Why do you think a solution cannot work in China? It cannot work in Europe. It cannot work in America. And it can work in Africa. When you say, where has it applied here? Benin, Togo, what? You know? Technology. Does it bring value for money? If your correction ratio, for example, is 98%, what are you bringing the prepaid meter to do for you? That for convenience. Convenience, is that the biggest problem of Ugandans here? How many people do you want to bring convenience to? And how many people still don't have your services? So what is the value for money? Then, most of the efforts we have at play, they are deficient in action. 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 For example, who doesn't know that when you plant a tree, you will alleviate this problem we are having? How many people are in the business of tree planting? When can the bishop say that before I wed you, first plant a tree and bring evidence that the tree has been what? Has been planted. Before I baptize you, you first plant a what? A tree. Why don't we use these simple approaches? When you get money, 80% of it will go into sensitization. 20%, if you are lucky, will go into the real what? Into the real action. Why can't we be simple, as practical as possible, and make things happen? Resource allocation disparities, we know this. If you look at our country, for example, very little money goes into water and environment. Very little money. We need to we have to use emotional intelligence to convince our government that we need more money. And I don't think the way we shall convince them is using those SDG things, what. No, you have to look at what this country is doing and try to convince them that also if you put money in water and environment, you'll make a significant contribution to the national development agenda. We have to understand the language the politicians have the things they understand and align ourselves there. We cannot say because SDG, because this, because it can't. Because we've talked, we have used this song, we have sung this song, but this is still the allocation. Very little money in water and environment. How can we make these politicians, how can we sing a different song for these politicians so that they can put more money in the water sector? Now, issues of sustainability. What is the mindset here? We build, we neglect, we rebuild. That's the mindset. That's the mindset. My colleagues in the Ministry of Water, if I asked you how many are different from this, you build, you neglect, you do what? Rebuild. At least on the water, the piped water and these other systems. But sometimes I wonder for these dams, who will maintain these dams? Are you not building, neglecting, and hoping to rebuild in the future? The other way of looking at it is you create, you don't manage, you recreate. This is the mindset playing around. So when we talk about sustainability, these are serious challenges for us. These are serious challenges. So the management part is extremely, very, very important. This nexus, I have heard of water, environment, energy, and food nexus. But there's also the issue of economic development. How does economic development live with these things? If somebody wants to build a hotel at the lake, would you say, no, you can't build it there because you'll be spoiling the environment? So how do these things coexist in an eco-friendly manner? Economic development takes place, but the environment is also preserved, and the country achieves holistic development. I think next, somebody was continuous learning. What Dr. Smith was telling us here falls under here. We have to find a mechanism of continuous learning new ways of doing things. And research is very, very key in helping us here. When you get these presentations like what Dr. Smith gave us, it tends to help you to challenge the status quo. This is what new information says. This is what I'm doing. How do I do things different for better? Now, engineers, we tend to have solutions that are rich in engineering, but very poor in cost-benefit approach. Engineers hardly apply economics. They would want to do anything they have thought about, but if you ask them, what is the cost-benefit of this thing we are doing? Problems. You will see problems. So I think we have to get these economists to work with us, engineers, so that whatever we do, and by the way, this cost-benefit analysis does not have to be financial cost-benefit analysis only. It can also be economic cost-benefit analysis. It can be social cost-benefit analysis. But at least let's be guided with what we are, by what we are doing. Potential constraints, if we want to proceed, and this one I want to provoke here again. Failure to attract priority financing due to perceived less effect on national economy. I'm sure why there is little money put in this sector is there is a perception that the contribution of water and environment is not much. And we cannot convince these people by continuing to sing the same song of SDG, of this. There has to be a different approach. There has to be a different outreach so that we can be able to influence. Chronic lamentation disease. The kids who were singing here, I saw you clapping. I don't know what you are clapping for. Whether you also joined that lamentation. Because these are young people who are saying, you old people, if you don't do anything, we are doomed. When they finished, you clapped. I don't know what you really clapped for. Okay? Otherwise, you can also suffer from chronic what? Lamentation, disease, lamenting. Nature is going. This one is going. This one is going. What are we doing? Who is supposed to do something about it? These children can lament, but for us at our level, we can't continue lamenting. We have to do something tangible. High infrastructure failure rates, especially where the other word is not utilization, it is utilization. We need to start seeing this infrastructure we are doing as providing a utility. A utility. P.S. I want to convince you that these dams you are constructing, they will collapse. So how can you utilize dams as well so that there's sustainability, financial sustainability? How? The other way of looking at it, and I think the model being used now, is let's construct them, let the people use them. When they get a problem, the government will. But how will it work with this low tax base? How will it work? Okay, if it is like that, can it be transparently determined that, okay, we know these things, we have put them there, we know they will run down, then we shall put them back. And it is clear the cost of putting them back, where will it come from? And it is not only dams, it is the several other things which we are putting in place, and we are not looking at their sustainability. Will they be there 30 years from now? The person who has built Entebbe Expressway, I think, was much more reasonable in terms of sustainability. You pass there, you pay a fee, which is not big, but at least you know that there is some money to put the lights there. You know that there is some money to maintain the what? The road. So how can that thinking of utilization come in things we do? And lastly, we run a risk of being a country of technology dumping. When new technology is invented, it has to be tested in Uganda. Or when it gets old, it has to be brought to you. So we need to be very cautious so that we don't become a dumping ground. I was discussing with PS in the morning, these meters you see on your houses, it is only us, poor people, who are stuck with meters, believing in them like you are believing in God. There are people who have known that these meters are inaccurate, inherently inaccurate. They have introduced a systemic error. And what are these people trying to do? They are convincing you how you can buy better ones to remove this systemic error. If I know there is a systemic error, and the law allows me to correct for it, why don't I correct it for it without buying meters, without becoming a supermarket for meters, foreign meters, all the time? Is that being fair to Ugandans? That the law allows you to do something, but you want the best. I was in the Netherlands, I said, your meters. Say, our meters have been here for 20 years. And for us, we want to replace them, do this. They talk of smart meters. You want to test smart meter technology. The first person to test it. For them, the manufacturers of those smart meters are not using them. They want to give them to you to use them. And then they send Dr. Smith to come and do research and present to you. And again, you get entangled in a cycle of spending money that would have otherwise expanded more water to Ugandans who don't have it. So I think we can intelligently use our brains to do things here which are reasonable and which are more fit for purpose for our country. One of the last slides is this: suggested areas of emphasis, innovative efficiency improvement reforms powered by technology. I believe in technology, but it has to be appropriate technology. Don't go for technology because others have it. AI, you go AI. This one, you go. This one, you are just following. Without interrogating, what is the relevance of this to my situation? Climate resilient systems and technologies. Climate change is here. We cannot run away from it. We have to be resilient. We have to have technologies that can be able to withstand climate change issues. Then recipes for financial, social, and environmental sustainability. When we talk of sustainability, we definitely are talking of these three things: financial, social, and environmental. Then mobilizing more political support for water, sanitation, and environment agenda. There's a lot of work to be done there to convince the politicians that they need to put money in the water sector. Conclusion, collective action and innovative solutions are required to address water, environment, and climate change crisis in Uganda. I decided to put the topic as a conclusion because I believe in it. But please bear in mind those things that are likely to impact on our mindset and are likely to impact on our attitude to this. I thank you very much.
Give him another round of applause. Thank you very much, Engineer Dr. Mojisha Silva, and also I want to thank you, Dr. Mark Smith, earlier, both of you who gave keynote speeches. I understand there is something in recognition of your effort, and may I invite the PS, Minister of Finance, and the resident coordinator that will be giving prizes or gifts to the two keynote speakers. Sorry? The PS Minister of Water, sorry. Mr. Okotokidi, Mr. Alfred Okotokidi. You know, he was talking about sources of finance. And I kept on thinking, why are we stuck in looking for money in all those places all the time? So it sort of entered my brain. I'm thinking we need to expand our sources of looking for money. And Alfred, that's the reason why I got stuck with the issue of finance, because it came as key when we were looking for resources. That's my bad. The PS Minister of Water will hand over. I think the first person to receive a gift is Dr. Mark Smith. And then Engineer Dr. Mojisha. Both of them have challenged us in working hard, but also have shown us where the environment is. The first images we saw that Engineer Mojisha shared can show us how the environment is choking in some cases with garbage. So we have ourselves to blame. A round of applause to those two. Thank you very much. We are going to another key important event, and that is the panel discussion, which will take us to lunch. And allow me to invite the panelists. I'll read their name one by one, and then they step forward. And each one will have about 5 minutes to make their presentation. And after that, we shall have a small mini plenary so that we can have a question and answer from you. So I'm suggesting that after they have presented, you will put up your hand, ask them questions, probably disagree with them. If I know your name, I'll say your name. If I don't, I'll point to where you're seated. If I can't, maybe I'll talk about the color of the garment you're wearing. So, may I invite to the podium our first panelist. Our first panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is an industrial engineer by profession and has significant experience as a corporate manager, is a management consultant, educator, and entrepreneur. Our first panelist is an executive director. He oversees the Institute of Industrial Research that include technology transfer, technology diffusion, process and product development, business incubation, contract engineering services, and applied R&D. Is highly regarded by his peers and professionals. Our first panelist is a member and vice chairman of the Board of National Enterprises Corporation, a business arm of the UPDF. Our first panelist is the chairman, Board of Governors, Entire School. Please let us welcome, with a round of applause, Professor Charles Kwesiga. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, has over 14 years experience in senior finance roles, including financial controller and chief financial officer at Shell Uganda Limited, now Vivo Energy, and chief finance officer at United Bank of Africa. She has a wealth of experience in finance management and business leadership. She has been a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants since 2009 and a member of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda since 2010. Let us welcome, with a round of applause, Ms. Kate Kiza, Executive Director, DFCU Bank. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is a results-oriented driven finance, a results-driven finance and general management professional with keen interest in finance, strategic management, and other aspects of the organization. He possesses specialized training and experience in accounting, financial management, and general management, corporate affairs, company secretarial practices, advertising and public relations, taxation, setting financial systems and departments, internal auditing, and corporate compliance in organization. Our next panelist is the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Water and Environment, Mr. Alfred Okoto-Kidi. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, holds a diploma in education, a bachelor in divinity, a master's in education from the University of Leeds, and a PhD from the Leeds University. He is currently Bishop of Ankole Diocese and Chancellor of Bishop Stuart University in Mbarara. He was previously Senior Lecturer and Dean of Faculty of Education at Uganda Christian University, Mokono. Before that, he served as Deputy Head Teacher at Kiborara Girls School and Entire School. He is a member of several professional bodies, International Advisory Board member, founder and patron Millennium Circle, guest writer in Ugandan leading dailies, New Vision and the Daily Monitor, the Right Reverend Dr. Sheldon Mwesigwa. Our next panelist is an incredible Ugandan. She's an author of Little Earth Soldiers book. She's the team leader of Little Earth Soldiers. Our next panelist is Mini Miss Uganda 2021-2022. Our next panelist is a claimant champion. And wait for the best. 9-year-old Grace Stewart Ninsima. Our next panelist is Anne Nkutu, Director, Rotary District Governor-elect, District 92113, a member of the host organizing committee of the recently completed Rotary International USAID WASH program in Uganda. Let us welcome Ms. Anne Nkutu, Rotary District Governor-elect, District 99213. This panel discussion is standing between the people and their lunch. You know what that means. So you'll have to use the time sparingly. And each one of you has 5 minutes, and after that, we shall have you engage the audience. Also, I'm reminding you also, if you have questions for Dr. Mujisha and Dr. Smith, please, in the plenary session, you'll be able to engage them. And so I want to begin with a general question for each one of you. And given the urgent need to address Uganda's water scarcity, environmental degradation, and climate change, how can we provoke a paradigm shift towards collective action and innovative solutions that are deeply rooted in the country's realities and strategic imperatives. And I'm going to start from my extreme left with that general question, and after that we shall go specific. Thank you very much. The organizer thought that the MC or the moderator does not sit. I hope I'll handle. Yes.
Thank you. I think the challenges are well known, and we need not dwell into that. But I think what is really needed for us to create this paradigm shift, which is what we are really striving to do right now, is first and foremost at the highest level possible and all relevant levels to capture what is the true value of these resources that we are talking about. When people talk about water, or talk about wetlands, or talk about the forests, they take it that these are God-given, and the true value for these resources are actually not known. And their functionality in terms of being catalysts for development are downplayed a lot. And this is not made any better when things like water is taken as a human right. So how do you sell human rights, for example? Just doesn't add up. And yet, as Dr. Silva mentioned, and he was actually trying to emphasize, these are supposed to be maintained, these are supposed to be renewed for sustainability purposes. So the real and true value of these resources actually is what need to come out so that their impact in terms of development, in terms of livelihood, in terms of existence are better appreciated. And we are living in an environment of abundance in the past and even right now to some extent. And I think that has created the kind of complacency where some of these are taken, after all, it is available. After all, it is available. Yet in reality, when you look at the quality which is associated with this, we are facing strains already. So we need to work on that. And then again, also, when it comes to reporting and accountability, the kind of reporting that we have been doing around these resources have also not been helpful. We have actually now managed, for the first time actually, to cause the change in the reporting of our national accounts to bring in the natural accounting aspect so that the true value of these natural resources can now become part of the national accounts. And the increase or decrease in them should cause the same concern as a drop or an increase in the GDP. And I think this is where we can really create this. And it is a journey that you cannot achieve.
Thank you very much. One, I would like to appreciate the fact that religious leaders have been invited in this meeting. That is a big credit because many times this is not done. And we happen to live on LC1. We deal with the people down there. Actually, when you want to appreciate the challenge, when I was here and saw the presentations, I sent a message to my driver. I asked him, remind me in Isingiro. He comes from Isingiro. Recently, there were some rivers that moved. Tell me about them. So he gave me the information. He said, Kamtiganzi niyo yaguruchire, meaning Kamtiganzi, the river flew recently. Then he said, Kahirimbi nayo ekachendera na nachivare, that these two now have reduced in the water levels that they had. So on the lower level, LC1, we deal with these issues, the challenges, paradigm shift, what are we doing? How are we trying to engage this? This is the best way you can do it, engaging us, even in a bigger way. And we want to appreciate the province of the Church of Uganda. This week was declared an environmental week. There are sermons going on to address this very aspect online. And in our diocese, Isingiro, where I've told you where rivers are flying and have moved on, we We want to appreciate the Sinjiro district. Every year they give us seedlings, about 180,000, and we distribute them among our Christians, and then they are able to plant. Personally, I've also planted about 10,000 trees, and so we are trying to do something. And we are also involved in coffee, and coffee vegetation is also plays a part. I want to believe 223 acres of coffee on church land, and 183 acres of coffee on households. So we are trying to make some steps, but we appeal for more support. When we talk about funds and dissemination, information is power. Most organizations and institutions are only used to radio stations that they are acquainted with. When they come to the Western, they will say, go to Radio West and advertise and sensitize. You don't know there is Revival Radio. We have 22 districts that we cover, and that's where the people are. They are not so much into your politics, which you go by. So let us know where to put the money also. Work with church institutions. We have captive audiences, which we can use, which we can misuse, which we can underuse. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend. And ladies and gentlemen, do you know, earlier I think either it was Dr. Kalist who mentioned that in South Sudan today, that schools are closed. By the way, they are not closed because it is a holiday. They're not closed because they are going to celebrate. The schools are closed in South Sudan because of the heat. And guess what? I've seen just an image. Somebody can put a frying pan outside in the sun and you can fry an egg. Well, okay. You'll find out more. Okay, we have, but the schools are closed because of the heat. That's a fact. Today in South Sudan, the schools are closed because of the heat. Yes, next.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. How do we step in to cause the paradigm shift and step away from the lamentations? I could clearly relate on the lamentations. So one, there's a lot of talk about what somebody else can do. But the first step is to recognize what we, or what I as an individual, can do to drive this paradigm shift. It's always very easy to point at what everyone else should have done or everyone else can do, not relating to what I can do as a contribution to this paradigm shift and bringing the environmental degradation to a halt. Number two is around what the PS mentioned around reporting. Unfortunately, I come from a numbers background, and what we say is everything can be reduced to numbers. Even when you look at the composition of our bodies, it's some addition of numbers of things back and forth. So what we can't track, what we can't measure, we cannot achieve. We need to go back to basics and track each and everything. When we talk about the rivers that have flown, how many are they, what is the volume, but we need to track it earlier so that we stop the flying before it happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nisima, you can turn the microphone from the other side, please.
This side.
Oh, okay. Maybe, what do you think we need to do, even the young people, to address the problems we are facing of environment challenges? In fact, the things we've been talking about, what do you think we can do so that the environment is not destroyed like it is being destroyed right now? What needs to be done?
Okay. First of all, I always say that there is nothing we can do if we do not love the earth itself. Because love is the most renewable resource to solve this climate crisis. So everything can be done, but you know, there are people who do things just because they have been forced to, or just because they know that if they don't do it, there will be a problem. our sister countries in like Rwanda, you find that people don't litter because they do not want to litter, but because there is a strict policy. So if the person doesn't love what they're doing, anything that can be done because they do not love what they're doing, so there is no change.
Thank you very much. I think that's awesome. We need to be so passionate about the environment. I mean, even if we can make laws and policies and all that, but if we are not really self-driven with love and passion, we may not get the results. Incredible. Thank you so much. Yes, Professor. No, reacting to this question, yes.
Okay, very good. Because I intend to talk about my memories of Luzira in a few minutes. It has a lot to do with what we are talking about. What Yuri is trying to do, Uganda Industrial Research Institute, after analyzing all the problems that we face,
Are you listening to him well?
Especially from the industrialization perspective, there are three pillars that we must address to industrialize this country. And a lot of them have been alluded to by the keynote speakers. The first and foremost, most critical, is appropriate technology. We must embrace appropriate technology. We must address issues of competent, skilled people to use that technology. We must address the financial infrastructure that enables the enterprises to flourish. And I'm glad we have a banker in our midst. And so, when you look at the industrial infrastructure in this country, we have yet to embrace the first industrial revolution of 1784, where through protracted mechanization of agriculture, the first industrial revolution was born. And look at us today, still holding the handhold as supreme implement for our agricultural practices. We must leapfrog from that and go through the second, third, and fourth industrial revolution, reach the fourth industrial revolution by embracing modern technologies. I was happy to hear what Dr. Mcha's commentary on appropriate technologies and all the attendant issues that we must address thereby. If you look at the dependency on foreign technologies, it was appropriately stated, and I must repeat it. These technologies were not designed with Uganda in mind. So how do you adapt them wholesale without developing your own capacity to assess the kind of technology you must have? Assess the appropriate technology, and then you'll be halfway there. The prudent technology transfer practices and methods must be adhered to. Let's not be a dumping ground, like Dr. Musha said. Technology can play a big role in mitigating against the five wicked problems that Dr. Smith talked about. And I wish we have more time to dialogue about this, because it is really the key impediment to our development, whether it is of water resources or not. There is an example I've had experienced, and investing in renewable energy is also a very, very critical consideration. Are we doing that? When we keep focusing on hydropower and all the attendant problems, you find that we are losing out. Whereas things like wind energy, like natural endowments, like this sunshine, I believe when we have so much heat, instead of looking at it as a problem, let's turn it into an opportunity and create solar capacity to generate our own energy. I'll add more as we go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anne.
So very quickly, I think some of the things that we need to do for the paradigm shift, as much as we're already doing it, I think educating the community is critical. Most of the time, we talk about the environment, we talk about the dangers that lie ahead of us, and we speak in forums like this, and we speak to ourselves and to the people who already understand what the problem is. I think we need to do more to educate people out in the community in terms that they can understand. And even as we work on environment protection, we need to work more with the people as opposed to going out there and doing things for them. The second thing is the issue of integrating environment concerns with social and economic concerns. For example, I think it has been started, but we could escalate it or we could amplify it. The issue of trees, looking more at trees that also address immediate practical needs to the communities. I think that they may be more inclined to plant those kind of trees from which they reap fruits or firewood or fodder or something like that. The third is to use organized groups like Rotary, which I represent here, not just to increase impact, but to unlock private finance, because we keep talking about finance, finance, finance. But if we use such groups as ourselves, we actually may be able to get more resources. But finally, I think one of the critical issues that I see is the issue of enforcement. Our country is well known for having some of the best policies that you could have in the world. And I'm told, I have no evidence, but I'm told that many countries in Africa will come to Uganda, pick up our policies, and go and implement them and actually excel. So I think a lot more needs to be done in terms of enforcement. If we set out something, a rule, and say this is what we're going to do, then we need to work collectively across the board consistently to enforce those policies.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to all the panelists. And she talked about, you know, sometimes we can sit in auditoriums like these and talk and make a lot of sense. But we're making sense to ourselves. We're preaching to the converted. So we need to go further than these four sides of these walls, so that the people who are, you know, at the far front can understand this. And yes, the policies are there. And they're very good policies. There's a joke in East Africa that when a Ugandan public official goes to make a presentation, the people in the conference are waiting to take that document because the Ugandan will have put it together so well. That in fact, good policies are made in Kampala, improved upon in Dar es Salaam, and fully implemented in Kigali. So let me as we take back that road, and again with you, can you reflect on the theme for UWEWK 2024 and highlight how the work of Rotary relates to it?
Thank you so much. Rethinking collective action. I think as Rotarians, by the way, for those who do not know, Rotary is an international service organization composed of professional community leaders, all of whom are volunteers. So it's not like a UN agency. It is community, people from the community who work on these issues. And one of our areas of focus is WASH, that's water and sanitation. And lately, we've also adopted environmental protection. And as community leaders, our work is to actually address the problems in our communities. And so we fully embrace the need for collective action. And we mobilize resources amongst ourselves In Uganda, there's a saying of, whenever I'm listening to TV, people say tusaba government etuyambe. Rotarians have not taken that route of tusaba government etuyambe. We're doing what Kate said. Before we ask for what others can do, we are like, what can we do as ourselves? And so we've taken up the issue of WASH, we've taken up the issue of environment, and in Uganda, we have recently concluded a program that was $4 million, co-funded by USAID and Rotary International, and we have implemented programs of WASH in schools and health center facilities in 29 districts. And the idea for us is that using our resources, using our expertise, we can promote health, we can promote basic education, we can promote gender equality and economic development through WASH. So that is what we have been doing. And as I said, we work collectively as community members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kwesiga. The Uganda Industrial Research Institute is a competence and capability center that champions innovations, translates applied research results into practical applications that lead to high quality, efficient industrial products. Based on your experience, what needs to be done to identify and promote innovative solutions to water, environment, and climate change crisis in Uganda?
Once again, my emphasis on modern technology. And what are we doing about it as Uganda Industrial Research Institute? Is that we have set up, I call it iconic campus in Nyamuhizi Industrial Park, a 15-acre campus that was funded with a grant from government of China, but is addressing modern-day technologies, including instruction in artificial intelligence, instruction in robotics. Right now I have some young people who are prototyping a drone for use in data analysis and commercial and agricultural activities. We are doing quite a bit. We have improved, we are saying, look, people, you bring me these half-baked engineers and technicians, let's turn them into relevant players in the industrialization process. And so the 4IR, Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies that we are looking at and actually practicing include, as I said, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, drones technology, and so on. The departure from the tradition is that we embrace, first and foremost, modern technologies, and then we take every effort to educate and train Ugandans in that direction, so that this practice of having an honors degree person in a mechanical engineering degree but has never seen a CNC, we are trying to.
So how are these technologies, how can they be applied for the individual Ugandans, let's say in Kaverevere, or let's say in Chawente, or let's say in Adlang? How do you apply these technologies of artificial intelligence?
These technologies defy geographical location. And so what we are saying is, do we understand them? Why don't we address the technologies in terms of how relevant and how appropriate they are for our environment, and train the manpower to run them? Another aspect is also developing indigenous technologies. I had talked about over-dependence on foreign. Let's stop this. Some of them, something as basic as a pasteurizer, for example, or a homogenizer. You train somebody how to process milk, and until they have money to go to France to buy a pasteurizer, they are stuck because they can't afford it. So drive down the cost of technology.
All right, thank you very much. Grace Stewart, you are one of the children in Uganda who really care about the environment, and you want to make a difference. We know that you and other kids, like you, are feeling the effects of climate change. So Nsima, how can you and your friends use your energy and creativity to help make things better?
Thank you for the question. I'm gonna start by answering. Of course, we feel the effects, and that gives one of the reasons why we should protect nature. So, you see, Uganda is the 13th most vulnerable country out of 195 countries to the climate crisis. And this is because we depend on agriculture. To be specific, rain-fed agriculture. Personally, I come from a cattle corridor district. And cattle means everything to my people. Cattle is how they know to survive. That's where their basic needs of life revolve. That's how they know how to make a future for their children. And with the current long drought spells, even children that are supposed to be in school are walking long distances looking for water. People are looking for pasture, and animals are dying every day. And you find that if they do not know any other way to work and their livestock is dying, they die. They die too. And when like you said, in South Sudan, people are closing schools, so it affects their education. We depend on nature. We are nature. So it is sad to see that people don't find a need to protect nature. I'll never forget the year 2021 when I went to Karamoja and I saw the water the children were bathing, even adults. It was so green, using stones and catapults to shoot birds for food, picking leaves from trees, boiling them and eating them with salt. They didn't care. All they wanted to do was cool off. My brothers and sisters in Karamoja, over 1,600 have died. 89,000 children under 5 years and 10,000 pregnant women were expected to suffer from severe malnutrition in the year of 2023, early January, to 2024, late February. What is happening in Sudan can happen in Uganda. It has already happened in other places. Look at Europe. Over 61,000 people died due to such heat waves. And now they're advising children to stay indoors. That means it affects their education too.
Okay.
And people say, our elders always tell us that education is the key to success, even though, like, some people, to be genuine, I don't think people like having morning preps or that stuff, but again, we must. And you find that these girls that are cooking food, even a quarter of the world's population who work and are treated in hospitals, instead of finding life, they are finding death.
All right.
If they say that you should have hospitals, what's the use of a hospital if the hospital is death itself? So even though they get water, the sources that they draw the water from is unclean and it causes diseases. According to World Health Organization, over 2 billion people lack access to safe drinking water. 3.6 billion people lack access to safe sanitation, which draws us to the sad fact that over 2 million people die every year due to related diseases. So this crisis is a life or death crisis. You live or you die.
All right, thank you very much. A big applause to Nsima. If you are not provoked or challenged by the words of 9-year-old Nsima, I don't know why. Because she's saying we're nature and we have to protect nature. In fact, The trees can survive on their own, but we cannot survive without the trees. The nature does not owe us a living, but we do. We have to protect it. So we are deeply humbled and challenged by Nsima. I think that's what Abdul Latif was saying, Abdul Khalid was saying, that what will the future generation say? Look at the mess that we have created. Miss Kate Kiz, Executive Director, DFCU Bank. Given
NBS happening now. Get ready for the ultimate Dokolo Woman MP race debate, moderated by Mildred Tuhaise, live in Lira. The debate will air live on NBS TV, available for streaming via the Afro mobile app at 10 p.m. on Monday, March 18th, 2024. Don't miss as Janet Adong Elau of the NRM, Dr. Austin Rosemary Arok of FTC, Sarah Oguti Nyayankori of UPC, Harriet Ageno of Noob, and independent candidates Rebecca Arroyo, Anne Grace Lalam, and Esther Okulo Obot battle it out to win over voters. The Dokolo Woman MP debate this Monday, March 18th, 2024, live at 10 p.m. on NBS TV and available to stream via Afro Mobile.